let's go.
Hi, Kat Chancellor here with Stamp Art Connection and StampArtConnection.com. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and I've been having a lot of fun with the Beautiful Butterfly Suite, which is the bundle that has both the stamp set, some dies, and this 3D embossing folder. It's still available to the end of the month as part of the mini catalog. And here's the 3D embossing folder. I stamped and emboss these little butterflies with some black embossing powder. Of course, you know I love my little ephemerals. This makes it really easy. The Greetings for All Mix and Match Ephemeral Pack just makes it really easy to make a card. Well, you open this up and it's actually going to be a pop-up of a butterfly, and then you can have a sentiment inside. And I'm going to show you how to make the mechanism, but that's basically all it's going to be. Now I'm going to kind of change this up because we are going to use the beautiful Bohe 6x6 Designer Series paper, and we're going to use the embossing folder, but I'm going to do a different technique that I'm going to show you. I'm going to take some of my paper pumpkin spots that I save, and I'm going to take Daffodil Delight, and I'm going to grab some Poppy Parade, and maybe I think I'm going to grab some Petunia Pop and maybe some Calypso Coral. Just going to kind of grab those three colors. And what I'm trying to achieve is, and I'm going to show you, is we're going to make something like this using our embossing folder and applying some ink. We're then going to cut this out. That's going to be our base for our pop-up. And it's just going to be just kind of a fun technique on how we can use color, the embossing folder, as well as layers. Now here are some other ones that I did. Just some different colors using this technique. And so I'm going to show you how to do that, and then we're going to make some cards. Grab some basic white cardstock for your base. You're going to need a layering piece for the front of the card, as well as this beautiful Bohe 6x6 Designer Series paper. You're going to need some cardstock for the base of your butterfly, and then some basic white cardstock for our little pop-up mechanism. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start by demonstrating how you can take this beautiful embossing folder, and I'm using the front of the embossing folder. And what we want to do is we want to put the ink on this raised section of the embossing folder, and then we're going to use, and I have a little spritzer here, we're going to use that, spray it, and then we're going to apply that to our paper. And I have my three colors, but the color you always want to start with has got to be the lightest color. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of start with my lightest color, and then I'm going to go with my next lightest color, and then my darkest color. Okay, and then I'm going to grab my spritzer, I'm going to spritz it, and I'm going to lay my paper down, and we're going to run this through my machine. Okay, and that is the color that we got out of that. And I'm going to go ahead and clean my embossing folder with a baby wipe, get it nice and clean. Now we're going to grab a die, and we're just going to cut out our butterfly. Okay, if I wanted to trim some of this off a little bit closer, I can do that using my scissors. You're going to need the filigree die that you're going to cut with vellum, and then I'm using the large butterfly outline die that I cut using a piece of iridescent cardstock to serve as my base. I'm using the filigree die to cut vellum as a layer between the base and our butterfly. And I'm going to color with some berry burst and a sponge dauber. Now, taking that sponge dauber, I'm also going to kind of go around the edges of the butterfly just so that I have just a little bit more contrast when I put it to the background, to that nice calypso coral background for the inside of my card. Take the vellum layer and add the berry burst to color the vellum piece, which is going to be sandwiched between our iridescent base and our colorful butterfly. So these are your layers. You're going to have the iridescent, the vellum piece, and then our colorful butterfly that we just inked. So now we're going to go ahead and begin to put together our card and our layers. You're going to need a basic white card blank that's 5.5 by 4 1/4, and for the inside we're going to cut two pieces from the bokeh that are going to be 5 1/4 by 4. For the front of the card, you're going to need a piece of calypso coral that's going to be cut 5 1/4 by 4, a basic white layer that's going to be cut 5 by 3 3/4 for the piece we're going to run through the embossing folder. For the mechanism, you're going to need two pieces of basic white cardstock cut 1 by 5 1/2, and you're going to score along the 5 1/2 side at 1/2 inches, 2 inches, 3 inches, and 4 1/2 inches. You fold your mechanism, and you're going to need a bone folder to make sure that the creases are nice and tight. You're going to add glue to the 1/2 inch side, and that just simply will fold neatly to create kind of a rectangle. Again, just add the glue to that 1/2 inch tab, fold it, line it up, and then crease it tightly, and make sure that those are glued together nice and well. For the next step is simply to put together the two sides so that the 1 inch side is on the bottom, and it kind of creates a V shape, and that's going to be the mechanism. And you want to ensure that that is also dries well before you apply it to your card. To assemble the butterfly layers, I began by folding the wings on either side of the body, and I added the vellum piece to the iridescent cardstock, being careful to align it to the base, and then I added the body of the butterfly that has also been cut out of iridescent cardstock, and just kind of trimmed to make sure all the edges were nice and crisp. And again, I folded the wings on either side of the body. I didn't fold it in half, and then I glued that flat piece using Cosmic Shimmer glue to my base. Now, when I added the layers to the inside of my card, I used Tombow glue. but you want to be very careful to ensure that you do apply the glue to the edge of the paper so that the paper will not lift up when you add your mechanism. So you have to make sure that that glue goes all the way to the edge of your paper layer when you apply it to the inside of your card. That's important. If it does not go to the edge, then you run the chance of the mechanism pulling up your cardstock. For the front of the card, you can go ahead and add your Calypso coral layer that is 5 1/4 by 4, and then take your basic white layer that's 5 3 3/4 and emboss that using your embossing folder. The mechanism should be placed about 2 1/4 inches from the top of the card. You want to ensure that you have glue goes completely to the edge of the mechanism, and it is placed inside the card. Just fold it and it will adhere to both sides of the card to create the pop-up mechanism. And then to apply the butterfly, just go ahead and add glue to either side and then fold your butterfly and fold the card in half. Carefully check it by opening it and then let it make sure it dries completely. I use the mix and match ephemerals to find a sentiment for the front of my card, something that I could use for Mother's Day, and I found one that was really nice and bold. I embellished the front of the card by using some of my Calypso coral cardstock and embossed using black embossing powder the 2 butterfly images to kind of balance that bold sentiment for the front. Now this is something I should have done before I put my butterfly on the inside, but I went ahead and it worked out for me. But I used a Mother's Day sentiment and embossed it with black embossing powder for the inside of my card. Now there are dies that will cut out these shapes, but for me it's just faster to fussy cut. Okay, so here's our card, and the front I've added a couple of little embellishments there. You can see the little dots from my stash just to kind of add something, a little more interest on the front. And then if we open it up, you see there's our butterfly, and I also found these itty bitty little tiny bead trinkets that are in the catalog, and I just added that there to the corner of my Mother's Day sentiment. I also added some, you can see the little sequins that I added as well to the wings of the butterfly. Now if you'll notice how nicely that the butterfly opens up, that's because I have pinned the bottom wings, bottom layers, to the base of the card there, or the base of our butterfly, which is that iridescent cardstock, which really kind of makes the wings open up. And I'm going to demonstrate this with this version right here. I saved this for last. So you kind of see, you open it up and the wings are kind of flopping all over. So what you want to do is you want to grab a glue dot, and we're going to pin the layers to the bottom of to the base of that butterfly. We're just going to pin the bottom edge of those layers using a glue dot on both sides, and we're just going to pinch that. And then we're going to do the same for the next layer, and we're going to do that for both sides. And then what you're going to see is that when we open up the card, that butterfly is just going to pop open, and the top layers are going to kind of be free, so you can see those beautiful vellum layer and the iridescent layer. So we just go ahead and put this on the other side. Now, just a moment of self-promotion. I would really ask you to hit like and leave a comment if you can. I'd really appreciate that. It really helps with my video and growing my channel. And if you enjoy the tips and techniques that I share, that's how you can pay me back. Just simply hit like and leave a comment. Now look at this. Look at that. Look, it's a totally different card just with that simple trick. And you can only get tips like that here at Stamp Art Connection. So there's our card. And we go back looking at the one that I just finished. You can see that I've added some sequins, and if you just peek over here underneath this wing, you can see where I have the glue dot, and you can just kind of pinch that. And if you want to add more than one, you're certainly welcome to. That's your choice, but it really makes a beautiful card where you can see those beautiful layers with the iridescent cardstock as the base. I have sequins on the leaves to just add a little bit extra glimmer to our project, and then of course our little bee there. There's room to leave a note, and you can always use the back as well. Now this card is perfect for a belly band just because it's kind of thick. In this case, I'm just simply going to use an envelope, but it's just something to consider if you're putting together a project like this. Thinking ahead, I think if I make some more, I'd use a belly band just to kind of hold it together. But look, it'll sit nicely on a dresser, a bookshelf, or on a desk, just the way it is. Plenty of room for comments or a note. Now, I went, and just to show you how fun this was, I actually made some other cards using some other color combinations. This one I'm using the Daffodil Delight and some of the other butterflies that I colored with some iridescent cardstock, and instead of the black I went ahead and embossed with silver, and then added some little embellishments on the front of that. And you can see I've added some embellishments on those beautiful butterfly leaves as well. And I just wanted to point out, this is where I talk about you have to ensure that that glue goes all the way to that inner edge, because if you really open that card up, that mechanism can tear that cardstock away from your base card. So that's when I was kind of talking about that in my tutorial. I just wanted to point out kind of what that means. Now here is Balmy Blue. This is Balmy Blue, and again I used some sequins that I had in my stash. Of course I love these ephemerals, mix and match greetings that just kind of make card making so much easier. Look how pretty the inside of that one with the layers with the iridescent and the vellum. And this one is kind of coming apart, so I'm going to show you how I'm going to just add just that glue dot right there to the bottom of that wing, and that will kind of opens up that whole butterfly. And I love the little bee there on the side. I've added some sequins there as well. So that is the Balmy Blue. And then I did another one in Fresh Freesia right here to show you how you can this technique lends itself to lots of color combinations, and I really love, look at that pretty, that iridescent base looks, and the silver embossing for the Happy Mother's Day. Just a really beautiful card. This is probably something I'm going to gift to my mother and to my sister. Okay, so there you have it. If you haven't already, please hit like. The products are all available on my online store. There will be a link. You can go to my blog for some more of the project details and for the gallery of these cards that I've completed. If you're looking for a demo, please consider joining my team, and really consider joining for that 20% discount, especially now that we'll be having a new annual catalog coming out soon. If you are a demonstrator and you like my content, please support my channel by hitting like, share, and leave a comment. This is Kat Chancellor of Stamp Art Connection and StampArtConnection.com. Happy stamping!